should be pretty much up to date. I pushed something, and I saw someone else also push something. So what is that? No, just me. This is a branch, and this the latest. So the idea is that I merged my pull request with FileSystemOutputCache fixes because there was an issue which was open about encoding the file names. So this PR was fixing it. He tried it. It was fixing his issue. So I merged it, and then I optimized it to remove the usage of the binary writer. Why is it green? Oh, in this case, this one should have it. But yeah, I removed some binary formatting because we can write binary directly at some point. This one, yes. Yeah, it was serializing a memory stream, which is stupid. Just take the bytes directly. So that's just file system output cache provider merged in 110x. And we didn't merge anything from last week triage, nothing new. Orchard core. Orchard core fetching. Lots of activity. What's new here? Seven days. So this is a branch that has been merged. I will talk about it later on the commit that is the merge commit. This is Jean-Thierry working on background tasks. ShellContext. So this is update ShellContext. ShellContext. What is it? Just I will just look at the dev branch for now for this thing. So implement shell dependencies. So the idea is that we were counting so shell is the object representation of a tenant, all its configuration and state, middleware and services, and every time there is a new request coming, we are counting the active request for this shell, for this tenant. And when the request ends, we decrement the counter so that when there is a restart on the tenant, we only restart the tenant when the last request is done. But there are requests and there are other tenants who now can have dependencies on other tenants. So we are not counting just the request, but counting any scope. A scope can be created by a request, but also by another tenant if it depends on this tenant. And you can see also there is a new API called add dependent shell on a shell. So you can add from a shell a dependency on another shell, so another tenant. And this way, when the main tenant will be restarted, any dependent tenant will also be restarted. So that's a new thing. And that's very useful because you can have scenarios like, and this is already implemented by Kevin in his branch, but in his feature, but this will enable us to create a module that will let us have one tenant own some data and all the other tenants, if they want, get the data from the main tenant. For instance, users. We could have a very simple user management service that will just proxy the default implementation, but resolving it from a specific tenant. And then all the other tenants will be able to use the same user database as the main one. So it's very useful to do those kind of scenarios very easily. So now tenants can resolve services from other tenants, and will detect that and dispose the instances as required. So that's the change, and also some optimizations in the pipeline for handling that thing. Beautiful, love it. Then on clear dev context, so the optimization fixes. This one pull request from Matthias to fix the part name validation when it's empty. This one clearing the shell context dependent upon release. This is a fix to clear correctly the dependent shells. That was an issue. This one, tenant matching, should be done later. So implement IUserLoginStore from Michael Petrinolis. This is implementing IUserLoginStore. The idea being that a user can have multiple logging stores, or like external identities, Facebook, Google, but they will be attached to the main user object in the database. And this is the first step to accept another request to support client OpenID providers. This is currently being reviewed. If I miss any question, just make some sound because I don't see them. No question, that's good. So this was a PR that was merged, adding port matching and fallback option for RunningShellTable. So the match in the RunningShellTable, which will find the tenant for a specific current request, now supports different ports, and also an option to fallback or not to default, because by default before, if your URL doesn't match any tenant, you will see the default tenant. Now there is an option from the API to say, I don't want the default tenant if it doesn't find a match. That's used by the OpenID module, but the default implementation for us is still to fall back to the default tenant. That will be an option at some point if we don't want that. The new thing though is that now when currently if you define a tenant by a domain, you don't have to specify the port. And actually, if you specify the port, it will not be used. Now you can specify a port, and if you specify a port, we'll try to match it. So you can have different tenants based on the local port. Can be also very useful. And that's supported, and more unit tests to handle the case. Yep. So that's a new feature. Was required by the OpenID module also. Fixing build, merge this pull request which updates all the assemblies to the 2.0.6 release of ASP.NET. This is merging the branch from Kevin Chalet that adds the final bits for the OpenID Connect server. Fixing inner recipes. This is a PR from Jean-Thierry that lets the recipe invoke other recipes. There was a bug with reentrancy in the scopes. Now it's fixed. So the idea is that recipes can now safely call other recipes. So you can split a recipe into lots of small ones and reuse some files again and again and again. And pass parameters, so that's very nice. You can do reusable recipes inside other recipes. So that's good. This is Jean-Thierry working on the background task. What is this branch? This is also another PR for fixing a specific use case with dependency injection, and when you have a mix of lifetime for an IEnumerable service, still in the PR. Move different tasks at the very end of the request and out of its scope. This is a refactoring for the different tasks, how they are handled, and now it's at the end of this middleware. So that's an improvement. This is on dev branch. What is that? Fixing typo. So a new contributor, Craig Walker, fixing a typo. Yeah. Then fixing expand collapse button again from Matthias. Fixing some CSS to fix the widget, plus minus. Another issue, invalid name part display success message, so validation. Then adding the return URL parameter for the template management to make the flow of pages more obvious. Fixes inner recipes. This is a PR I just talked about that has been merged, and this hasn't been merged yet, but it has been approved, fixing unprotected exception. There was an issue since, oh yeah, the PR from Kevin is huge and also adds more features and organize things more correctly. And there is a feature now that will create a custom data protection provider that will be dependent per tenant. So any usage of data protection provider now will be tenant aware and work correctly, and the keys will be set in the app data, so they will be shared across all tenants, well, all instances, for instance, on web, on Azure App Services, or you can also define a custom app data folder in Docker or by environment variable if you have a shared drive. So that's good. That's it. And this one is to fix an issue with SMTP settings, because since this change, all the stored encrypted data can't be decrypted anymore because the data protection has changed. So in this case, we should not fail, but just say log the error and not prevent anyone from changing the password. So it can't be decrypted, but you can still reset it now. And I will merge it right after the meeting. And I think that's it. And also same thing, we also decrypt it for the notifications. So now in this case, I'm just logging a warning and not displaying any notifications as a prevention. Okay, and I think that's all. Questions? So I will just show you what PRs are currently open. Interesting ones. So we got a PR from James Jackson South for ImageSharp, which has released a new beta. So he also created a PR for trying to use this new version. We just need to try this version, and if it works, it should work, then just merge it. We also have, just waiting for this pop-up to disappear. We also have right now fixing this is mine. And I got an approval. Oh, no, well, some feedback. This is ImageSharp. This is the one from Jean-Thierry about a bug in IEnumerable and service types. Dynamic cache from Chris, nothing new. This one is an interesting one. OpenID Connect client, so adding support for custom authentications providers, and lots of code and lots of feedback also from Kevin, also myself. So there is some progress, some questions, but that's good. It's reacting to all the comments, so that should be in soon, I hope. That would be great. And then the usual ones, workflows. I didn't make any progress on this one. I see that Antoine has started to look at this one and ask lots of questions about how to. No, not this one. Where is that? You didn't comment on the PR. What did you comment? What did I miss?
On the issue, maybe.
Okay. Yep, questions which I answered about what to do with what is missing from this module. We'll see how it goes. Good luck, Antoine. You will do it. That's it. Questions? No questions. That's beautiful. Short meetings because no demos. At some point we'll get some demos when we can make beautiful sites and beautiful modules, but not yet. Good. Okay, then thanks everyone. See you on Thursday.